you've got to be passionate and you've got to have leadership buy-in, but you've also got to be able to judge merit in a less traditional way. I'm part of a hierarchical organisation that is 113 years old, the Australian Army, but the way we were judging merit was very linear. You could only get to my job if you were a male, if you belonged to a particular corps, infantry or armour or engineers or artillery. That's got to change. I mean, almost 51% of the Australian population is women. They have got so much to offer your organisation as they do mine.
The overwhelming majority of the people who were trained as peer supporters were women, and it was the benefits of their models were that they were low profile, high trust people. So they had incredible networks within the community, and they were able to support people to, heal some of the trauma that had happened as a consequence of the disaster and some of the pre-existing traumas that were reoccurring. But essentially they were able to do things that clinical professionals from the inner cities couldn't do. They would visit people at night, they would spend long periods of time with them, they would support them to become socially integrated again. So these were really critical roles, and it was community generated, and it was generated largely by women, and it was run largely by women. So it was women's informal networks, their conversational networks that created the ecology of understanding about who was vulnerable and why, and how we could intervene and those kind of things.
Apart from the way in which women who join the ranks of those organisations are treated, often the way in which they have to survive is to be like one of the guys. That means they have to go along with the joking, sometimes the sexualising of situations. They have to almost become one of the guys to be able to be accepted. I think it can also function in ways that, we know that there's a particular kind of masculinity associated with being a firefighter, and we have this iconic image of the firefighter who with no concern about his own safety rushes into a burning building and carries somebody out over their back. So there's a very heroic kind of masculinity involved in the kind of firefighting, the sharp end of emergency services. But there may be less interest by firefighters in prevention. There's not the same kind of masculinity that's involved in that kind of rescuing, fighting fires, is a kind of different kind of masculinity that may be required if we want to start thinking about how we might prevent fires in the first place, saving more lives through prevention than rescuing. So perhaps if we start to think about the way masculinity is connected to the functioning of these organisations, we may get more of a focus on prevention than we have in the past.
My answer to the question, what about the men, is that men absolutely matter in trying to create more equitable and more resilient forms of structures, be it within emergency management or be it in the homes. So whether we're talking about a resilient household because everyone's been part of the planning for disaster, where it's not a matter of one party dictating to others what they should do, but that every household member comes together regardless of gender and age and actually talks through, discusses, writes down and practices a plan, and men are as much part of that as women are and as children are.